all courses. But if you want, you can complete this total course. This batch is regarding 6 p.m. demo 1. Here HTML 4 and 5, CSS 2 and 3, generally these all comes under web UI technologies. Here our 6 p.m. batch, 6 p.m. this demo batch is regarding one is HTML 4 and 5, and second one is CSS 2 and 3, then third one is Bootstrap. So generally with these three also you can develop your own project. You can easily develop the project. But if you know all these things, you can be a front-end developer. In the real time, if you want to design any project, any web application or a mobile application or a desktop application or a mobile app or a desktop app, whatever we create, that applications we can easily develop it if we use it. We can easily develop our application if we use all these technologies. Along with this, if you know, along with this front end, if you know any one server, any one framework, under this JavaScript we have some other frameworks. We have Angular or React or Node.js. If you know, along with this, if you know the frameworks, here frameworks, if you know this frameworks, either one is Angular or second one is React.js, or third one is Node.js. So if you know all these things, you can be a complete front-end developer. So if you want to be a full stack developer, just I'm explaining present environment to work, what we have to learn, that I'm explaining here. Under web UI technologies course, all these contents comes under this. Our 6 p.m. batch is specified for this content. If all students are interested, we'll continue with all web UI content and these all contents. And this total duration will be 40 to 45 hours of sessions it will take. So duration of this web UI content, it will take here 40 to 45 hours, 50 hours, like that it will take that duration, total duration of this content. And here for this it will take around, if you want to talk, you can unmute and talk in the class itself. Okay, you have that control. Yeah, duration for this content, what I mentioned here, HTML 4 and 5, CSS 2 and 3, and this one specifically for this content, duration is 20 hours. So 20 to 25 hours of sessions usually will take it for this duration, this content. The specific content we usually cover it like this. Here duration of this content is 20 hours. If you want to learn apart from this framework, if you want to learn apart from this content, here apart from this content, if you want to learn any framework, so one second. Yeah, thanks for waiting. Some emergency call. So that's why I lifted that call. Yeah, thanks for waiting. Yeah, here normally web UI, nothing but here these all contents comes under web UI course. Okay, so presently this batch is declared for HTML 4 and 5, CSS 2 and 3 and Bootstrap 5. This content usually I'll take duration of 20 hours. If you are interested to learn that remaining all concepts, JavaScript, jQuery, Ajax, you can contact organizer, DURGASOFT organizer. She will tell you how to register for this all web UI content. Okay, complete UI content, how to register and how to interact with her. You can contact her. And apart from this, after learning this 40 hours, 45 hours of web UI content, you can go with any one of the framework. Any one of the framework, if you complete it, then it will be helpful to join as a front-end developer. If you enter any URL in the browser, suppose if I enter here http://www. Suppose if I enter here Facebook. So whenever I enter facebook.com, I can see that Facebook web page. So once I click on that submit button of the application, here, so once I click on the submit button of the application, that submitted data will be submitted to the next page. Here this data will be submitted to the next page. That next page is our server page. Here front end page, here it is one web UI, user interface. What first one, this one we call it as user interface. We are providing end user sake, we are providing one interface, that is user interface like this. Here this user interface is interacting with a server coding. So server coding here, UI front end, this front end is interacting with a server coding. This server coding you can understand here, server side. Here it is server side programming. Here under this server side programming, here in here if you are submitting that email ID or a password, whatever we submit, here email ID and the password, whatever we are submitting, that data will be received by the server side coding. That is either Java coding or a .NET coding or a PHP. Any one server side, Python, any one server coding, we use it here to read that data. If you enter any URL in the browser, you will interact with that application. If you want to register with your application, if you want to register with that application, with Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, whatever application, if you want to register with that, you have to create your account with that. Once you create your account, here once you are created your account, so now you can you can interact with that web page. You cannot use Flipkart account in Gmail. You cannot use Amazon account in Facebook. Why? Because every time we have to register with that site. We have to complete our registration process with that site. So here in this time, if we write here facebook.com, so with that Facebook application will interact with the server coding. Server side applications are here Java, .NET, PHP, any one server coding we use it. Here it will interact with the database. Here that server coding has to interact with the database. Here that server coding has to interact with the database. So that database interaction, here server coding, front end page is interacting with the server code. Server code has to interact with the database. This type of to and fro interactions we can create it with our application. Here database, here that database, whatever we have, that database we can interact here. So now I'm able to interact with that application with Facebook. So it will interact with data will be stored in either in MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server, any one database we can use it. So here always our front end has to interact with the server coding has to interact with database. This type of to and fro structure we can create it with our application. So if your application is interacting with the server coding, server to database, this to and fro structure will be there for every application. You are creating a front end, it may be a front end page, sorry, it may be a mobile application or a web application or a desktop application, any application, it has to interact like this. So this type of interactions we usually maintain it for our application. Every application, mobile, desktop, any type of application will use like that. So if you want to be a full stack developer, you have to know about front end, server coding, database. If you know all of them, then you can be a full development. So full complete full stack developer. You can be a full stack developer. Your front end page is interacting with the server page is interacting with database. This type of interactions we can create it with our application. So here this type of interactions, Facebook is interacting with the server coding, server is interacting with the database is back to server to front end. This type of output. Suppose here I'm able to log in with the Gmail. So Gmail, see here, go to meeting. I'm able to log in with this go to meeting. So I'm able to see how many recordings, how many classes I have taken. Those all list of recordings I can see here. I can download and I can upload. I can do anything here inside this. So here, if you are interacting with the front end application, if your application is interacting with the front end page, so that time, so here our front end page has to interact with server coding, server to database. So here I am able to download, means that recording is already available in the server database, in database server. So this recording we can download it and we can use it for other development. So this type of executions we can do it with any type of application, a web application, mobile application, or a desktop application. Repeatedly I'm explaining why, because what is the main usage of this application you can understand. If you see this, what is the real usage, you can understand here. And if you want to be a front-end developer, you have to know this content, web UI content, along with that any one of the framework, Angular or React or Node, any one framework you have to know. Apart from this, if you want to be a full stack developer, you have to know about front end as well as server coding as well as database. Means you have to know about front end UI, user interface with framework, server side coding with framework. So Java side, Java frameworks we have CoreJava, Advanced Java, and Java framework, Spring Boot, Hibernate. If you know all those, then you will be a server side developer. If you know front-end frameworks, front-end technologies, this is user interface, web UI technologies, and any one framework. Along with this, Java and Java framework and one database. So if you know all of them, then you can be a full stack developer. If you want to be a .NET developer, ASP.NET, C#.NET, and .NET framework. PHP, Core PHP, Advanced PHP, and PHP related framework, Laravel, Zend, Cake PHP. Like that, if you know any one framework, then you can be a server-side developer with PHP. These all, we no need to learn all server-side programming. We have to know any one of the server-side programming, Java, .NET, or PHP. Any one server-side programming we have to know. So then only we can interact. So this is about the front end is interacting with the Java server coding, server is interacting with the database. This two infrastructure we can create it with our application. So in this time, always front end is interacting with the server, means here we have to provide one application form, tags, everything. You will learn it in HTML. So basic HTML page, what? See, suppose it is showing here after login Gmail, I can see that Gmail drive. Actually, I'll use one drive for one batch. That drive will be shared with you. So you can check everyday recordings in that drive. Okay, paint files, programs, materials, everything I'll upload it. Everything, materials, paint file, programs, and recordings, all upload it in one drive. The drive will be shared with you according to your batch. So depends on our batch timing. I'll create separate folder, separate I'll create it. Separate drive I'll create it. With that drive you can interact. You can check everyday recordings. And here I explained till now what is the use of web UI and what is this patch is meant for, and what all the frameworks we have under this front end I explained. Here duration, what I explained, this duration 20 hours and this 45 hours, this is for only that content only. HTML 4 and 5, CSS 2 and 3, JavaScript, jQuery, Ajax, responsive design, Bootstrap, lesson SAS, and project. This content usually I'll take 45 hours. Apart from that, again 40-45 hours for Angular or React classes, separate batches. I am not taking these batches. You can join parallelly. Once I start JavaScript under this, once I start JavaScript, with that you can join parallelly any one of the framework. So if you know any one of the framework, then it will be here any one of the framework, then you can be a front-end developer. Here front-end here this batch is we announced it like this. If all students are interested to learn all these, we'll make our batch like web UI course only. Just we announced HTML 4 and 5, CSS 2 and 3, and Bootstrap. So these all contents usually will cover in this time. Okay, if you are interested, we'll go with the full development, full content. I'll explain to you. Here framework. Here framework classes, here web UI and 6 p.m. Here framework classes, and this front end will interact with the server code. These all we discussed. Here next one, here what is the use of HTML 4 and 5? HTML 4 and 5, CSS 2 and 3, and Bootstrap. So what is the main usage of this? Actually, if you go with the Bootstrap, this Bootstrap 5 is the current version. It is a ready-made framework. It's a framework of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's a ready-made framework. We no need to write any code. Framework is nothing but it's a ready-made architecture. So ready-made architecture will be available with us. So directly we'll use that that for development. If you are developing any application, means you can use directly this type of here. You can unmute and mute yourself. If you want to ask any questions, you can freely ask your questions. Okay, don't hesitate to ask any questions in the class. Why? Because if you involve in the class, then only I can understand how much you can able to follow. Here Bootstrap is a framework, and CSS and HTML, what is the use with this? HTML basically it creates the content. CSS will align the content. So just if you write the content, see it is showing some content. When I right click, if I use only HTML, how it will display? I'll show you this application. There is no right click option for this. Okay, I'll show you one other application. This one here, right click, inspect element. See, inspect element time. Here I don't want to use any header part. Some code I'm removing. So by that, how my application will display? See here, that GoToMeeting website is displaying like this. Here content is displaying, but it is in this format. So if you develop your application like this, no one will use our website. No one will use our website if we develop like this. Means HTML gives you content, CSS will give you alignment. Alignment of the content, we can do it with the CSS. So if I remove that body part for this, I'll use alignment, but I don't want to use any content. So next, how it will work? So I'll remove this body part. Here delete element. See here. See, there is no content here. If I delete this element, there is no content. Okay. Here, if I use my application, if I develop my application like this, here if I don't use any HTML content, it will be blank. If I don't use the CSS content, there is no alignment. So by this you can understand what is the real usage of HTML, what is the real usage of CSS. Even in Gmail, see, I'm able to right click here, right click on this application, inspect element. Every time I'm doing inspect element. Here I don't want to write any CSS for this. I'll remove this header part. Here I'll remove this header tag. See here, that application is look like this. Screen reader, using screen reader, keyboard shortcut, standard view, something it is showing. Okay, here it is showing this output is like this. Here if you don't use CSS, see it is also using CSS, that's why it is displaying like this. Even for this application also, if I remove that CSS part, Here, if I remove that CSS part, it won't show any output for my application. Delete. See here, I removed CSS. See, it is blocking the content, but it is displaying. See here, every content, everything, images, content, paragraphs, links, everything is there. But see here, how much bigger images, small images are showing in big size. Content, no proper alignment. If I show my Gmail like this, no one use Gmail. If I develop the Gmail like this, no one will use our Gmail. Okay, so we have to follow alignment. So HTML gives you content and CSS will give you alignment. So what is the use of JavaScript? JavaScript gives you errors, validations, object-oriented programming. These all we can create it. See, normally I'll refresh. So by that I can show some content here. Suppose if I want to log in for one of the application. I want to log in for one of the application. Here I am searching for Flipkart. Under this, here I want to log in here. Just I want to search for login. Here submit. See here it is giving some error message. These error messages we can display to the application. Here with this type of error messages we can display to the user. Because of this, here please enter valid email ID. This valid email ID, this error message is coming because of here this error message whatever we have, this is displaying here. This error message is displaying here because of this JavaScript. Because of JavaScript it is showing. Here it is showing all scrolling images. So all images are moving left to right or right to left, or if I click on next, it will move like this. Here this type of output we can show this scrolling content, we can show to the user. Here this scrolling content we can show to the user because of jQuery. So using jQuery we can show this type of scrolling content. And Ajax and responsive design. Ajax gives you asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Means without refreshing the entire page, we'll get that output. That is Ajax call. And responsive design means how we are showing our output in all different devices. So how we are showing our output in all different devices, that comes under Ajax. Different devices, how you are showing your output, that comes under responsive design. Okay, so like that you will understand what is the what in each topic of this one, each topic of web UI front-end course. And here this specifically for this Bootstrap. So Bootstrap time we never write any code from beginning. I mean CSS code, JavaScript code we don't write from beginning, but HTML content we'll write as it is. HTML content, images we required, a UL tag or ordered list, unordered list, or tables, whatever we required for a web application, those all will write it. But that alignment of the application, generally we do it with a CSS. Alignment of the application, we can generally create it with a CSS. So this type of executions, we can do it with our output. Here using Bootstrap, using HTML, using CSS, using lessons as, so we are able to create this type of output. Okay, this is about today's introduction. Yeah, please interact in the class. So what is your expectation? What means what you want to learn, and how you want to plan for the next 40 hours? Yes, please. Jnanendra, Shankar, Lokesh, Preetham, Tirumala, Rajnikant.
Hello, madam.
Someone is just now.
Hello.
Yes, Jnanendra.
Madam. Actually, yes. in Angular Java TypeScript is using.
Yeah, Angular. First we'll learn JavaScript in web UI course. So after that,
Okay.
in Angular time, for half of duration, they'll explain on first TypeScript. After that, they'll explain Angular coding.
It is covered in web UI.
Yes. So normally JavaScript covers in web UI and TypeScript covers in Angular classes.
Okay.
TypeScript covers in Angular classes. But before TypeScript, if you know JavaScript, it will be helpful.
Okay, JavaScript is different, TypeScript is different.
Different. Yeah. And both are different. Yeah, for that clarity only I explained these many things.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to know present environment, how development is going on. You have to know about this.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes,
Ma'am, one more
Chiru.
doubt.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually, we have a Django framework. So why that framework is for? And what are the HTML, what are the UI we need to learn prior to Django?
Django.
Yes, ma'am.
Django or Dango?
DJANGO.
Okay, Django.
Django. Yeah, Django.
Okay.
Yes, this one, ma'am.
Okay, Django. It's a powerful handling. And this is not comes under our things.
Oh, okay, ma'am,
Yeah,
no problem.
template designing
Basic
is
idea I wanted to know.
template designing, object-oriented map. See, this is also one type of ready-made structure.
Okay.
Ready-made structure of designing. We have forms, templates, drag and droppable things we can create it. But before this, you have to know standard development. Then you can customize it.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Thanks, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Any other doubts? Yes, Chiru, you joined just now only, but I started my class 6-7 up to 6-7. I'd wait for students, and after that I started my class. Try to get this today's recording from Bhavani ma'am, DURGASOFT organizer. You try to get that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, by that you can follow today's one. Anyway, I'll explain you tomorrow also once again that same thing. I'll enhance that syllabus. So
Okay.
whatever we required, I'll explain to you. And tomorrow extra information also I'll share you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Preetham, Rajnikant, Lokesh. Any doubts? Sorry, Lokesh, I can't hear you.
Swetha, can you hear me?
Your voice is breaking, Lokesh.
For the web UI.
Sorry,
Hello.
your voice is breaking, Lokesh.
Okay, I'll type.
I'll type, I can hear you. Remaining content, I can't. Okay.
Hello, madam. Where should I practice HTML content?
HTML?
Visual content. Where should I practice HTML
You
content?
could practice in VS Code. VS Code, Sublime Text, Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver is a paid one. Autumn, brackets, like that. So many things we have. Front end IDE,
Visual Studio.
Eclipse. You can install Web UI here. Web UI IDE. Web UI front end development IDEs. You can see Autumn, brackets, like that. So many things. You can check.
Okay, TypeScript is covering in
Angular.
Angular.
Yes, and Angular classes.
Angular 10 is started
Once
tomorrow.
we start JavaScript, na? So JavaScript onwards, you can parallelly learn one more course, either Angular or React or Node.js classes. These three not comes under our course. So our
Okay.
course is regarding either this one, this combination or this combination.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Who wants to type? I can't see any type message here. Yes, anyone typing? Okay, is this time works for you? The 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. IST. Yes. Okay, I think no one is typing. So we'll end the session for now. So we'll meet tomorrow at 6 p.m. sharp. 6 p.m. only I'll join in the class. This link will be same. Webinar link only will use it. This link will same. We'll continue our class in tomorrow session. I'll explain you whatever doubts you have.